John says, for LCR speakers, should I try? I get 3 identical speakers or 2 really nice LNR speakers for stereo surround or stereo sound. 3 identical or 2 really nice and a brand match center. I will be using for music and movie listening. If you can. This is tricky because you said 2 really nice LNR speakers, which kind of implies that the 3 identical speakers are not really nice. So I need a little bit more clarity on that. Like how much nicer are the really nice LNR speakers, you know? I would typically say the 3 identical speakers are going to be more cohesive if they're identical speakers. Because even when you have stuff where they say it's timbre matched, usually what that means is they're just using the same tweeter, right? A lot of times you'll have one where the center has 5 1/4 inch woofers, and then you may have some towers and are using 6 1/2. Those can sound very different. You know, the directivity index on those could be very different. And even though they have the same tweeter and the woofer kind of looks the same except larger. And even when you go with a tower that has, let's say, 5 1/4 inch drivers in the tower, and your center has 5 1/4, or let's just say 6 1/2, more realistic. Your center has 6 1/2. Your tower also has the same 6 1/2. It still doesn't mean that they're going to sound the same. You know, so timbre matched, you're kind of taking their word for it because they're the part of the same lineup. You just assume, well, same lineup, it's going to sound the same, and a lot of times they don't. You can take a look at the measurements for a lot of these speakers, and they just don't. They're not the same. So if you get the same exact speaker, you're going to get a better chance of actual timbre balance, timbre matching, I should say. Let's see here. I'll just go through. Marv says, just cook rice manually on a stovetop. Nah. Mine has a timer, so I wake up to fresh rice. You know what I mean? Chuck Burgess, and depends on TV or an ATS. I have TV, so a match center. Oh, ATS, acoustic transparent screen. Yeah. Samperi, I love the identical method of implementation for sound. You would never have a different L versus R. Why would you want a center to be different? The other aspect of that is, let's say you have one of those MTM designs, right? And you have the MTM for left, and you have the MTM for the right, and then for the center, it's actually the same exact thing except you lay it on its side. Just the fact that you're laying it on its side, if you're not exactly on access to all of them, that center might still not sound the same just because it's laid on its side, right? Moving left to right off access to a speaker that's placed horizontally is not the same as going left and right to that same exact speaker placed vertically. So just things to think about. Paul says, if you don't change your output to stereo or have it auto match content, 3 matching is a must in my opinion for music. But as long as the center does good voice, you can get away with a decent experience. And you know what? This is what I like about Paul is a lot of times we're talking about the theory, right? And yeah, that's not going to be perfectly timbre matched. But if you step back for a second, right, and say, okay, realistically, will you still have a good experience? And the answer is, yeah, you'll probably, if they're not exactly the same, you'll probably still be, have a decent experience, So it's just one of those things you kind of have to, you have to trade it off in your mind and see what's what and what's worth it to you, The biggest reason to get a different center is purely for placement. Otherwise, always go for matching. And you know what? I'll tell you, in my living room situation, actually, in my home theater, I don't have a matching center. And in my living room, I also don't have a matching center. But I've chosen speakers that take extremely well to EQ. So maybe that would be a big consideration. Look at the directivity index on these speakers, and if you see it where the bass region is starting to go up, and then it goes down and then up again, something like that, where there's where it's not just one solid line, that means it's probably not going to take very well to EQ in that range where it changes, right? Look for something that, regardless, if it doesn't matter if it's a straight line, it doesn't matter if it's kind of like this, the slope of it. For what I'm saying, right? It does matter. It does matter because it tells you, the dispersion characteristics of that speaker. So it does matter. But all I'm saying is, if it's a smooth line, it's EQable. And if you have speakers that are EQable, the left, the center, your front stage, LCR, are all take well to EQ, then you can get them to sound more similar. Right?
Make sure to check out our audio-only version of the podcast at anchor.fm/Daily HiFi, or just go to your favorite podcasting service and search for Daily HiFi.